Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's Dr. Jan Fortman with the Mother-Daughter Relationship Show. I hope everyone is having a beautiful morning, afternoon, or evening. It's in the afternoon here where I am, and in Chicago, and it's sunny. Today it's going to be in the 70s, and we are just so happy here. So for the next few days, it's going to be in the 70s. But guess what? One day it's going to be about 78. The next day it's going to drop down to the 50s. And then at night, it'll be in the 30s. But you know what they say here? Always keep a coat or jacket in your car, no matter what, even in the hot summer. Even if it's 90 degrees, have a coat in your car. So today, we're going to continue our discussion where we talked about boundaries, especially in the mother-daughter relationship, because this is what this show is all about. So let's go into it. Last episode, we talked about when to say yes and when to say no. Today, what we're going to talk about is being a mother who's over-controlling. And then, on the other hand, the mother who lacks any kind of control. So let's dive right into it, because this is really, really important so that you can have a healthy mother-daughter relationship. So now let's see what an over-controlling mom is. So usually the over-controlling happens when a loving mother tries to protect her daughter from making mistakes by being too strict, by having too many rules, too many limits. And I know some moms will say, well, you can't have too many rules. You can't have too many limits. But yes, you can. You can be too strict in your rules and too strict in your limits. So it ends up with the mother being over controlling and the daughter feeling like she is being over controlled. So let me give you an example. And I'll start with when the mother has, let's say your daughter might, be in elementary school, and you don't want them to play with the other kids because, you're afraid they might catch cold. You make them wear excessive clothing. There is a movie, and I don't know if it's worldwide, but I can't even think of the name of the movie. But the mom is so overly protective and so afraid that this is her son, that she overly dresses him in the cold weather so he won't catch a cold, so that he can't walk with his arms down. His arms are stretched out, and he slipped and fell in the snow, and he couldn't get up because he was padded so, with clothes. And so that's just an example of an overly protective mom. So protective that she was afraid that her child was going to get a cold. And so even with your daughter, it might be you don't want her to associate with certain friends in elementary school before being a teen, because you might feel that, oh, they're a bad influence. Maybe not. And it can go on and on and on, even to adulthood, where you're still overly controlling your daughter. And what happens when you do this, usually when a daughter is over controlled, she is subject to dependency or even enmeshment, which we talked about. We had a conversation about in an earlier episode, enmeshed relationships. So you think about it. When I say subject to dependency, I mean by that, in that the daughter cannot make a decision without their mom. They're so dependent on mom because this is what mom has done. Mom has made all of the decisions for how she dresses, what kind of career she should pursue. Not only what kind of career, but just really making sure that this is the career she chooses. uh, uh, what kind of friends she has, even boyfriends, what kind of boyfriend, what kind of husband. But now, when I say dependent, meaning that she cannot make a decision without her mom. So she can have a friend, but come to her mom. Is mom, should I be friends with them? Mom, should I wear this? Mom, should I go there? And not making any decisions on her own. Now, I think I told you in a previous episode of the client that I have and still have, that I'm really working with, because the mom is over controlling the daughter, who is in her 50s, lives with her mom. Her mom buys her clothes. Her mom does everything for her. Her mom buys the food. Her mom cleans up her daughter's room. Her mom does everything for her daughter. And so what do I see? That daughter is so dependent on mom. It's hard for her to make a decision without asking her mom. She is totally dependent on her existence. She's in her 50s. She's totally dependent on her mom. So now when I talk with the mom, I try and try to make the mom see that she has to give her daughter its independence, even at the age of being in her 50s, because number one, it has affected the daughter's life. So look at yourself and think, am I being overly controlling? Have I crossed that boundary? So think about that. So then there's that opposite mom. Lack of limits. She does not give her daughter any limits. She lets her daughter do just about anything and everything. Okay. And what happens? She's overindulgent. She doesn't discipline her daughter. And this is a phrase that I like to use, and some people really disagree with it. She's overly forgiving. So now, she doesn't discipline her daughter. So now, what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, I can tell you what happens with that daughter. It usually results in a daughter who is extremely careless. She lacks discipline in her own life. She has a careless way of living. And as an example, let's say your daughter, your daughter has a car. You bought a daughter. Now, I don't have a client like this, but I have a colleague who is coaching a mother and daughter, the adults, daughter and their mom, because she sees this, what has happened with the daughter because of lack of limits. In other words, no boundaries at all does the daughter have. And the mom does not place any boundaries over the daughter. So now she has bought the daughter 5 cars. Why 5 cars? Because the daughter has wrecked every car the mom has bought. The daughter drives carelessly. The daughter lacks discipline. The daughter also knows that if I tear up this car, mom's going to buy me another. And so she drives carelessly. Fortunately, she's been blessed in that she has not been hurt, in any of these accidents. So I'll say accidents. Sometimes it's not an accident with another car. It can just be an accident backing up into something, running over something, just not paying attention. But she knows that her mom is going to buy her another car. Her mom has bought her 5 cars. So now, when I said overly forgiving, the daughter does not take responsibility for anything. When the mom was raising the daughter, the mom did not allow the daughter or teach the daughter being responsible about anything. No matter what, she would forgive her daughter, no matter what. And the daughter would do things on purpose. Sometimes when I talk with my colleague, I ask her, do you think she's doing this on purpose? Because sometimes when, as a mom, we do not give any limits to our daughters, it can cause hostility. It's like a child when you see children and you say, you know what? They're seeking discipline. They're seeking to be told no. This particular daughter has never been told. So now think about this. Hopefully, you're not either one of these moms. However, if you see yourself leaning towards that, being either too strict, being too controlling, that can cause a negative effect with your daughter. And then on the other hand, when you don't have any limits, when you don't show your daughter any limits, that can be have a negative effect on your daughter. There's always a middle road. There's always a middle road. And parents, moms, I'm going to say this. Look back at how you were raised and look back at why you are either one of if you're a mom, excuse me, I have doing this. My doctor says it's acute sinusitis. And sorry, but it doesn't distract. It does me. But I want you to look, and if you find yourself being either one of these moms. Think about, as I was saying, how were you raised? How did you feel? If your mom was overly controlling, number one, how did you feel? Number two, how is it affecting the way that you are raising your daughter now? How has it affected your relationship, your adult daughter? The same with the lack of limits. Look back, how were you raised? Were you raised like this? Or were you raised with an over-controlling mom, and therefore it has affected the way that you raised your daughter, and that you went all the way over to the left or to the right, however you want to say it, and you showed your daughter no limits, no boundaries. She has no boundaries because you established no boundaries. And how is that affecting her now that she is an adult? So you look back at generations. Sometimes something like this is generational, but there's always hope. There's always hope. Even with my clients, I should say, the mother and daughter, even although the daughter is 50, now the mom it's a very slow process. She's learning to let go. She's learning. The first thing we did was, I said to her, okay, instead of you going out, buying your daughter clothes, who's in her 50s, don't. Let her go buy herself and buy clothes. In the beginning, it was really kind of difficult because the daughter would I'd say to the daughter, so I'm going to go out and shop a little bit. Well, I really don't know what to get, because my mom is not going with me. So it was hard for her to go and purchase an item of clothing. And the rule was, boundary that I set was, you see something you like, do not call your mom. Do not send a picture of it to your mom. If you like it, buy it. Difficulty was that because her mom always shopped for her, she really didn't know what she liked. So this is a case, but you might think, oh my goodness, that's extreme. But actually, it's not. So what I want to tell you is, number one, from last episode last week, when to say yes, when to say no. And number two, allow. In other words, if you see yourself being over controlling, think about how that's going to affect your daughter as an adult. And if she is an adult and you see this, how is it affecting her now? And try and change. Step back. If you're the mom that did not establish any boundaries, didn't establish any limits, it's kind of, I would say do this. This is my advice to you. Not to be so indulgent. That's a part. So now I want you to really think about this, because boundaries, sometimes we just think boundaries mean yes and no. In a sense it does, but there are so many nuances to establishing boundaries. What I want for you, moms and daughters, is to get into a place, to be in a place where the boundaries that you have set or that you have not set have not affected your relationship in a negative way. Now, if you feel that you really need some assistance or that you really need some coaching or just some help in establishing boundaries, you can always contact me. So how do you contact me? You contact me by my email address. You can contact me by emailing me at janfornow125@gmail.com. That's janfornow125@gmail.com. Or you can call me at 773-443-2058. Now, if you are in the outside of the United States, you can still reach me at that number. It's also a good, if you have WhatsApp, you can also reach me on that number. I am here to help you to have a more loving, harmonious relationship with your daughter and or with your mom. Also, if you would like to purchase my book, The Secrets to How Not to Throw Mama from the Train, which is available on Amazon.com. The Secrets to How Not to Throw Mama from the Train. You can get a free copy, autographed copy, with 1/2 an hour free discovery call where we can talk about the issues or the concerns that you might have with your mom or with your daughter. And if I feel that I am not the right person for you, I will connect you with someone. So either way, you can reach me at janfornow125@gmail.com or 773-443-2058. I hope that today's episode has given you some food for thought. And I hope that you did get some value out of it. So until next time, it's Dr. Jan Portman with the Mother-Daughter Relationships. Have a beautifully blessed rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening. Bye-bye. See you next time. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's Dr. Jan Fortman with the Mother-Daughter Relationship Show. I hope everyone is having a beautiful, blessed morning, afternoon, or evening. Today, I'm very happy to see all of you, and thank you for tuning in to the Mother-Daughter Relationship Show. Well, today, we're going to go back to something that, a subject matter that's very important, and I have been asked by several of you to go back to this particular subject matter. And the subject matter, what is it? Boundaries. Boundaries. How do you set boundaries? I have heard from different daughters, adult daughters, especially, about how my mom does not respect my boundaries. And I ask you, so what do you mean by that? Well, when I tell her something that I don't want to discuss, we discuss it anyway. If I tell her something that I don't want her to do, or she does it anyway. I have different rules and in my house, and she does not respect my rules. And one of them was, I have white carpeting, and I have, she says, I have a beautiful sign at the door, and it says, thank you for removing your shoes. And she says, and I have footies. She said, I have a container. It's got all kinds of cute footies in it. And I have flip-flops in different sizes, whatever it is you want. She said, and if for some reason, because she has a friend who has, I think it's multiple sclerosis or something like that. But anyway, she has trouble walking. She has to keep her shoes on. So she says, so I even have the covers, that you can cover your shoes with. She says, because of the carpeting. And I said, okay. She said, but guess what? I said, what? She said, my mom comes over and she says, I'm not taking off my shoes. And she says, we've had arguments about this. And I tell her about, well, I didn't make you take off your shoes when you were home. It goes through the whole thing, right? And so she said, she doesn't respect my boundaries. And I've had other instances, but that was the one that I wanted to bring up. So let's talk about boundaries. Now, I have been reading Oprah magazine and Oprah.com. So for today's episode, and the next maybe couple of episodes, I will be bringing in some of the things that I read about boundaries and mothers and daughters from Oprah.com. We all love Oprah. So now, what are boundaries? And this is the way that they describe it in Oprah.com. Boundaries are the lines that we draw to mark off our autonomy and that of other people. They protect our privacy, or privacy, as some people say, and that of others. Boundaries allow for intimate connection without losing one's sense of self. I love that. There are the professional boundaries. So, and they give an example that would be, why you have to take your hand off my leg, Mr. Boss. And the personal ones, which is what we're going to focus on. The same arm around the shoulder can be a violation of personal space or a much appreciated gesture of affection. So it depends. Today I was asked, are you a hugger? And he said, I always ask that because I'm a hugger. Some people love being hugged. Some people, oh no, that's a boundary. I don't like that. So it depends on where your boundaries are. Boundaries are about speech as well as actions. What we say, like mothers conjuring up images of specific sexual activity in conversations with their daughters, are a boundary no, no matter what your personal style. And so it's a matter of speech as well as what we do. Now I'm quoting from the article on Oprah.com, and it's the May 2023 issue. So if you go to Oprah.com, you can read the whole thing. But anyway, so how do we set reasonable, effective boundaries? And as an example, you could say, it hurts my feelings when you are overly critical of my appearance. That's setting a boundary. Or please don't belittle my career choices or the choice of my friends, my choice of friends, or any of the choices that I make. Please don't belittle them. That's setting a boundary. You can also say, you can also let your mom or your daughter know that if she doesn't change her attitude, that you can tell her you might start visiting less to protect your mental health. So in other words, when we don't respect each other's boundaries, it does have an effect. And it does have an effect on our mental health. So let's go to what I said earlier about being overly critical about someone's appearance, about your daughter's appearance or your mom's appearance. So let's say moms, you don't really like your daughter's choice of hairstyles. It could be her clothing, and these are things that she chooses for herself. But you criticize them. You criticize. So what happens? She starts thinking. She starts second guessing herself because your opinion matters, even though she might say your opinion doesn't matter because she's an adult. But your opinions and what you say matters, especially when you're critical, especially when you're overly critical, especially, if she said to you, Mom, this is the way I like to dress. Or Mom, this is the way I like to wear my hair. This what makes me feel good about myself. And then you criticize her. Well, I don't know why, that dress is too short or that skirt is too tight or the color of your hair doesn't go with your skin complexion, whatever. And so you're doing that. And what's happening? You're eroding her self-esteem. You are really impacting her mental health. So moms, this is what I want you to think about when it comes to when your daughter has set certain boundaries. Now, and belittling career choices. Why are you a clerk when you could be the secretary? Or why do you like being the secretary, but you could be the boss? Well, maybe, Mom, that's what I like. I like to be the secretary. I don't like to lead. Well, but you could be this. So that's a boundary. Especially if she's trying to set that boundary, when she's telling you what it is that's affecting her in a negative manner, what she's doing is trying to set a boundary. So there are all kinds of boundaries. And this also is from Oprah.com. And I'm quoting, the boundaries between mothers and grown daughters are more complicated, more heartbreaking, can be more absurd, and far more slippery than even, like this, the most wiggly, unexpected border markings around our most rapidly shifting, emerging, and disappearing country states. So you think about that. You think about the borders. So our human boundaries, and this is from Oprah, our human boundaries contain and they separate. They embrace and they bar the door. They define when they're not making definition, just about impossible. So they define when they're not making definitions just about impossible. They show us how self, family culture, and memory slide around left to right, left to right, left to right, depending on how you see me, past to present. But mostly our boundaries show us where things have been or may have been, since memory is such a notorious liar. We're going to go back and discuss all of this. And where they could be, and most maddeningly or most comfortingly, depending on the day and hour, where things are with us. In other words, sometimes boundaries shift. So today, I love a hug. Tomorrow, don't touch me. Today, I don't mind if you walk in my house with your shoes on. Tomorrow, take your shoes off. Today, I don't mind you giving me advice about my clothes or my friends or my hair. Tomorrow, I don't want your advice. So when it talks about boundaries shifting, boundaries do shift. So sometimes that's difficult in our relationships and in our mother-daughter relationships. But usually there are certain boundaries that we set as moms and we set as daughters that really don't shift. Now, usually when we're setting boundaries, now those boundaries that I talked about, they can be boundaries that are extremely, extremely important with us as far as not crossing them. But there are sometimes that are certain boundaries that we set, and these boundaries we feel should never be crossed. That's when you need to sit down, have a conversation, moms and daughters. Okay, what is it? Mom, this is the way I'm raising my child. The boundary here is only if I ask you for advice. The boundary, don't cross that boundary. If you see something and you feel I should have done it differently, in other words, keep it to yourself. Because the boundary here is, this is what I'm doing. And I've seen a lot of boundaries crossed with grandmothers and grandchildren. When mom says absolutely no sugar past 6 o'clock. And granny says, that's the kid, yeah, Granny, can I have? And granny, go ahead, but don't tell your mom. That's crossing a boundary. When a daughter says, I would prefer that you not discuss my problems or my issues with your friends. And you're the mom, you have a very close girlfriend, you discuss your daughter's issue with your close friend. You've crossed the boundary because you've agreed to that. So you've crossed the boundary. Daughters, if your mom tells you, look, this is what I like to eat, I would appreciate it if you let me eat it and stop telling me that I shouldn't eat it. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I like to eat. That's that boundary. Even though you might feel in your heart that's not doing her any good, and you might feel in your heart that you need to tell her that, she's told you. But what happens when you cross that? She set that boundary. So what happens when you cross that boundary? Misunderstandings, arguments. So setting boundaries, respecting each other's boundaries helps you to navigate the challenges in that mother-daughter relationship. And in this instance, I'm speaking to both. I'm speaking to both mothers and daughters, because the mother-daughter duo or relationship needs to recognize and respect each other's boundaries. Make reasonable commitments to each other and go through with them. Go through with them. So my suggestion here is to accept each other the way that each of you are, rather than forcing your mom or your daughter to conform to your particular set of ideals. Now, you can disagree, but disagree without being respectful. You can disagree on the boundary. You can even say how you feel in a positive way. You can say, okay, well, as far as the carpeting is concerned, well, I just disagree with you making people take their shoes off. Now, on the other hand, daughter, that's your mom. So let her come in with her shoes on when she leaves. If it's tracks, just clean it up, accept it. Although she's crossed your boundary, in other words, she's got, this is her boundary. So it's just something that I want to start with today. And I'm going to delve deeper into boundaries, setting boundaries, and respecting each other's boundaries, and how we can do it. So this is just the introduction. This is introductory to it, and there'll be part 2. And depending on the feedback that I get from you, part 3. So I hope that I've just given you, I should say, pause for thought, and that you'll be thinking about the boundaries. What of your daughter's boundaries have you crossed? And know that you crossed, and are continually crossing them, but you just don't know how to stop. Daughters, same. What boundaries have you crossed your moms? And you continue to do it, and it's causing difficulties in your relationship, but you can't seem to stop. So we're going to talk about it as the weeks come, in a couple of weeks, boundaries, how to set and how to develop, and how to learn to not cross each other's boundaries. Now, as you know, I have written my book, and the book is entitled The Secrets to How Not to Throw Mama from the Train. And it's all about how to navigate the challenges in the mother, adult, daughter, mom relationship. Gives you tools, techniques. There's some humor in it. There's my story in it. There are other stories in it. It's in a sense, it's a memoir. In a sense, it's a self-help book, but it's a book that I know that can help you in your relationship with your adult daughter or your mom. And if you would like a copy of the book, It's available on Amazon.com. Just go to The Secrets to How Not to Throw Mama from the Train. Just put it in there. Go right to it. It's available Kindle and the hard copy. If you would like the hard copy, just go to janfornow125@gmail.com. Or you can call me at 773-443-2058. You can text me at that number, 773-443-2058. Not only will you get a signed copy, signed hard copy, but you will also get a free discovery call where we can just have a chat about your mother-daughter relationship. I hope that you've gotten some value for today, and I hope that you have a beautiful, blessed rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening. Bye-bye. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.